for coming. It's great to see you all. The Lord has been very, very good to me, as you all know. I'm not going to be 90 tomorrow. I have lots of energy, but I never know when He may call me home. But my life has been dedicated to my Lord. I'll tell you a little bit about me. I was born in 1934, December 29th. I weighed 10 pounds. Wow. All big babies. I was the fourth one in the family. I had two sisters and a brother before me. I was the fourth one, and I had a brother after me. I was born in a little town, north central Pennsylvania. It's called McClure. It was in Snyder County. I lived there until I was in 9th grade. In the meantime, my father had gotten a degree in mechanical engineering, and he was looking for a job, and there wasn't anything close to McClure. He went to Lewistown, but that wasn't that great. So he got a job in Harrisburg, and he was riding back and forth weekends. It took about 2 hours to go from Harrisburg to McClure. So it was home and down to work and home and down to work. So he decided that he wanted to buy a house somewhere in the Harrisburg area. So he looked around and he found a house in Hershey. We moved to Hershey in 1948. I was in 9th grade. Since there were 5 of us, my one older sister had graduated from Susquehanna University. The next boy was going to Lebanon Valley College, and it was my sister Pat, then me and my brother Ben. The 3 of us with our parents moved to Hershey in 48. Pat was in 11th grade, I was in 9th grade, and Ben was in 7th. We all did very well in Hershey. Pat was a cheerleader. I was in the band front, and when Ben became a sophomore, he was quarterback of the football team and the player of the year. I graduated in 1952. I worked and went to school at Thompson Business Institute, which was in Harrisburg. I went there nights and went to work during the day. Shortly there, about 2 years afterwards, I got married to my high school sweetheart. And I had a beautiful little baby girl weighing in at 7 pounds, 7 ounces. Her name was Diana Lim, and she is here today. We were together a number of years, and then we got divorced. After the divorce, we lived by ourselves. We rented a house from my parents in Hershey. So we lived there about 11 years until I got remarried. However, in the meantime, I got a job at the state, and I was working in the Department of Internal Affairs, and a new secretary was elected. So she wanted to bring new directors into a department. And one of the new directors was the name of Dan Boyer. That all sounds familiar, right? So I was Dan's secretary. And slowly but slowly, we kind of fell in love without knowing it, without realizing it. We got married a couple years later, and we bought a house in Harrisburg, which is where I live now. We've lived in that house ever since we got married in '69. Dan had 4 boys. The youngest one lived with us the last 2 years of high school. He went to school with my daughter Diana, and we were married until, let's see, got married in '69. In '89, Dan said, we're both retired. Why don't we do something for someone or a family that's never had the opportunity for an education? I said, fine, go ahead. So we went to the Lutheran Charities and requested either 1 or 2 individuals from some country, mostly in the Oriental or somewhere in the world, that people wanted to go to college but could not afford it or didn't have the opportunity. So they came back to us and said, oh, we have a mother and a daughter. I said, no, I don't want anyone in my kitchen. So I said, no, I don't want that. So then they came back with the father and son. And it happened to be Hung and Hua, father and son. They were here a couple years. There were 2. Soon there were 8. They lived with us. The other brothers and sisters came over. And they lived with us a couple weeks, and then we bought them a house in Pembroke. And they lived there a couple years, and then they moved to a house in Lower Paxton Township. And recently, in the last couple of years, Hung has died. and she still lives in the same house. But we're on the third generation of the Orion family. But I love them all very much. I think most of you know him, or as his name is Dave. His wife is Lynn, and the little girl is Linda, and the son is, I call him Harry, but his name is,
Fat?
what is your name?
Fat. P-H-A-T.
And he's going to college at Penn State. He's in his second year, and he's majoring in pre-med. Okay, right. So, and Dan died when he was 90. He had his 90th birthday in May, and in February, and in May of that year, he died. He'd been 90 years old. We went on cruises with him. He was very good to everyone. Couldn't have been better. Couldn't have been a nicer man. I loved him dearly. I guess that's it. I can't. Anybody want to add anything?
Oyster pie.
Oh.
Yes, that's.
They loved oyster. Dan loved oyster pie. I think, don't you know what that is?
No.
Well, it's a baked pie with lots of oysters.
It's not a chicken pie, it's an oyster pie. And that's all Randy wanted for Christmas, was oyster pie.
So if anybody wants to add anything.
Well, I'm gonna add one thing if I can, okay?
Can you introduce
This is
yourself?
mainly for you, Chris.
She said to introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm
This is-
sorry.
this is my neighbor.
Yeah, I live kind of, Jan's house right in front of the home I live in, my father built in 1958. But anyhow, you could not have a better neighbor than this lady is, okay, to us. And, but she, this is what I wanted to say in particular, Christie, she's promised me that when she's anywhere near